NWOBHM here today. It's the 28th of January 2024. Before we look at Mama's Boys, a quick favour if I can ask that as usual, and that's if you would please subscribe to the channel. That'd be great, big help. So please do click the button if you would. Today it's Mama's Boys, remember them? And a box set of their stuff that came out just a couple of 3 days ago. Runaway Dreams 1980 to 1992. It's a 5-disc box set, and I'll get onto the content of it later as we run through it all. But it's top stuff, and again another new wave of British heavy metal era band that did well but could have done a lot better given a few kind of breaks, I guess is a way to summarise it. The band were of course comprised of the McManus brothers. Pat McManus guitar, what a guitar player. John on bass and vocals, and Tommy on drums. They were from County Fermanagh, I think I pronounced that right, Fermanagh, in Northern Ireland, and they got together as a band in the late 1970s, taking influences from fellow Irish bands, in particular Horslips, if you remember them, and the great Thin Lizzy. And they'd start out as Mama's Boys with a self-financed live album, which they put out in a limited form in 1980. And of course, new wave of British heavy metal was taking off everywhere, wasn't it? And you know, if you played a big chunky chord, you were immediately NWOBHM. And well, Mama's Boys were in style a sort of a Celtic NWOBHM, I suppose. But anyway, that live album, Official Bootleg, is excellent. A little bit raw around the edges, as you'd expect, but it's a cracker. Showed what promise that they had. It's full of like thumping, hard, bluesy rockers. For example, I'm Leaving Town, Down and Out, Record Machine, and Pat McManus's guitar really does shine through with how he can knock out the riffs and put in some really fluid fretwork as well. Check out in particular on that album the slow burning Belfast City Blues, and in particular his solo. If you didn't know it was Mama's Boys and you heard Pat's solo, you'd swear it was Gary Moore. It's that good. I think it's that good. That album got them noticed, sure enough, as they would then, the following year in 1981, go out on the road as support to Hawkwind on their Sonic Attack tour for that album. That's when I first got knowledge of Mama's Boys, because I saw Hawkwind on that tour, and Mama's Boys were excellent. Momentum would continue. A second album came out the following year in 1982, Plug It In. A more polished effort, being a studio album, and it showed that the band had matured in terms of songwriting and presentation, but it's still a really hard-edged album full of good old NWOBHM era style rockers with that Celtic twist, as I've mentioned. You know, you can hear the Thin Lizzy influences all over it. All very enjoyable stuff. And to keep that momentum going, they certainly didn't muck about, because just a year later in 1983, third album came out, Turn It Up. And this is another step up in terms of songwriting and style, as it brings in more melodic elements without losing any of that punch. Midnight Promises, Crazy Daisies, House of Dreams, Gentlemen Rogues, Shake My Bones in particular, blazing, chunky, heavy rockers with Pat's guitar all over it. And you know, his fellow siblings, John and Tommy, give him that solid foundation on the bass and drums there, allowing Pat to roam away, riffing and soloing away in quite some spectacular style. You know, Gentlemen Rogues is a particular favourite of mine. Riotous stuff. And by this time, you know, it really did look like that the big time wouldn't be that far away, because they bagged yet another high-profile support slot. This time going out with Thin Lizzy on their final tour in 83. There was some traction in America as well. You know, it started to look promising for them over there. And albums that came out later, such as Power and Passion, they're not included in this box set, by the way, Power and Passion. Perhaps we jump forward to 1992 Perhaps Cherry Red couldn't get the rights. I don't know. But anyway, after that, say after oh, excuse me. After Turn It Up, we jump right forward to 1992 and Relativity. And you know, by the time that this had happened, they were bringing in a number of vocalists because there were vocal problems anyway. And excuse me again, on a bad day for coughing. You know, the times had moved on. So had Mama's Boys in terms of sound and presentation, and Relativity sounds a little removed from that swaggering, punchy earlier stuff, and it does take a little bit of getting used to, I thought, but it's still got plenty going for it, and it comes across to me as say how can I put it, a combination of early 90s Bad Company, you know, like Brian Howe era, Foreigner, Heart, and FM. It's kind of like strong melodic rockers with some edge to them in general, and they did expand the sound a little bit by using some keyboards. Unfortunately, Relativity would be the final album from Mama's Boys, because sadly Tommy fell victim to his ongoing struggle with leukemia, and as you'd expect, you know, that was the end for Mama's Boys, and quite rightly too, given the circumstances. But here we are today in 2020, early 2024, and the always reliable Cherry Red, as they often do with this sort of stuff, I've put out this 5 CD box set to show how good Mama's Boys were. They do these box sets frequently, and often include bands from the old NWOBHM days, such as only a week, 10 days or so ago, there was the excellent Avenger triple, wasn't there? And here we are, just a week later with Mama's Boys, top stuff. And say that this box set is an excellent way to remember how good Mama's Boys were, and how far they could have gone with an even break. We've got the first 3 albums, then we've got Relativity, and also a disc of various singles, B-sides, and rare stuff, all in that familiar, sturdy, Cherry Red style, chunky, sturdy clamshell box. And there's a comprehensive booklet included as well, as always. Great stuff from a NWOBHM era band that did well, but you know, it's another of those conundrums, isn't it? Given a few more breaks, they could have gone a much further. But there we are. But don't miss out on this. It's all good stuff. I'll put a link, as always, in the description underneath to it on Amazon, so you can go and pick it up from there. Say for a 5 CD set, it's quite reasonably priced at the moment. I think it's around about 30 quid. So do that, please. Also, subscribe to the channel before you go, if you wouldn't mind. That'd be superb. And as always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and take care.